16th, 2023 to order at 6 p.m. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The clerk, please call the roll.
Potato,
Here.
Brown, Cole,
Here.
Hochstetter,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
All right. Everybody is here. That takes us down to a proclamation, and today I will be reading a proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a confrontation between family or household members involving physical harm, harassment, sexual assault, threats of physical harm, and stalking, and whereas domestic violence is a crime that affects men, women, children, families, neighborhoods, and communities, and whereas on average, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the U.S. will experience domestic violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime, and whereas according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, calls for domestic violence assistance were higher in 2022 due to the long-term effects of the pandemic's added stress, isolation, financial strain, substance use, and increased proximity to their abusers. And whereas children who grow up in violent homes are likely to also be abused or neglected and are more prone to domestic violence as adults. And whereas through its legal department, the city helps support victims and develop safety plans, as well as prosecute crimes related to domestic violence to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. And whereas the city of Sumner believes that our community, including every resident, should be a place of safety for all individuals. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the city of Sumner once again declares October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and encourages all citizens to actively stand against domestic violence in our community. Dated the 16th day of October, 2023. I will sign this. All right. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
Item 1, approval of the minutes from the September 18th, 2023 regular council meeting and the study sessions of September 25th and October 9th, 2023. Item 2, separation agreement, John Kaler.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hochstetter, would you make a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I move we accept the consent agenda as read.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Potato. Would any council member wish to remove anything off the consent agenda? Okay, it's been moved and seconded, seeing nobody wanting to take anything off. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimous. We have no public hearing tonight. And that moves us on to unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. Next up is public comment. Would the clerk please read the rules for public comment?
This is a time for you to address the mayor and the council as a whole regarding items that are not on the agenda. When the mayor calls your name, please approach the podium. Press the on-off button on the microphone. Before you begin your remarks, state your name and address or city in which you reside for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. As a reminder, public comment is a time for the council to hear from you and not a time to engage in back and forth. If you raise specific questions, the mayor may direct you to the appropriate staff member for further discussion.
Thank you. First one on the list, we have Melody Adams Forstrom.
And Mayor, before we get started, just a technical note for tonight. Council, if your mic turns on, if it's green, we'll have to upgrade you. We're having a trouble switching it. Also for the public that's here tonight to speak, make sure your mic is lit up red like this. If it isn't, we'll switch it on for you. So it should be green right now. We'll press a button, we'll get it going.
Okay, so my name is Melody Adams Forstrom. I live at 35346 11th Court Southwest Federal Way. I did live in the area for 24 years. Anyway, so I am in support of saving Ryan House to restore it and not demo it. And anyway, so my major point of talking focus is, so where are we going to get the money to do this besides the citizens trying to raise the money? So 600,000 was talked about to renovate, to make a park for Ryan House, and we're saying move that on over to restore the house. Also, Rainier Park, you guys talked about putting roofs over the tennis court and the basketball court. Heck, I came here tonight. I didn't bring an umbrella. I don't need a cover over me, and I don't think there needs to be a cover over those items. Well, then I looked on the, excuse me, 6-year transportation plan. Now, what I didn't know, because I didn't have the time, is how much is coming from state and federal. And I didn't go over line by line of your budget. I know you got a budget, but anyways, what I came up with, eliminate the pedestrian walk that's going to go over 410. That's $11,200,000. Eliminate the Puyallup River crossing, $4 million. And then also eliminate the bicycle lanes, $875,000. Now, again, I don't know the funding, if it can move about, but maybe in the budget, you can find money to renovate the house. Also, I'd like to mention the roof. I read some places sagging, and this is monsoon season, needs to be seen to. We've talked, the fence has gone up around the house, and there's a permit to demolish the house is posted. We've seen that. We're talking about it. We know about it. We're hoping that we can come to talk to where this doesn't happen and that we save this Victorian gem that is in this city. That's my time.
Thank you.
Oops. Turn it off.
Next speaker, Randall Adams.
I'm Randall Adams. I live at 63rd Street, Court East here in Sumner. I'd like to talk to you about unfinished business that should be in front of the council. The city of Sumner was named in a petition filed with the Central Puget Sound Growth Management Hearings Board last Monday. Since you did not hear any of this in your unfinished agenda, I wanted to make sure that all of you knew about that fact and that the citizens of Sumner knew about it. It is my understanding that city attorney has spoken with the attorney for Nancy Ryan Dressel and represented that all actions currently would be put on hold until the petition reached its final resolving. Maybe at some point tonight, the city attorney can apprise us on what this means, what actions will be done, and what timelines do they anticipate for this process. The petition states that the resolution 1663, wherein the city voted to demolish the Ryan House, is inconsistent with the city of Sumner's comprehensive plan, specifically with the historic and cultural resources sub-element, goals, policies, and objectives. The petition evidently has merit as shown by the city's actions the last week, and finally posting some of the onto their Sumner Connects website, some of the following documents. The May financial estimation from WJE at $422,000. The June financial estimation from WGG after opening up the walls and ceilings at $1.459 million. the city's financial supposition of costs totaling approximately 2.219, which is an additional 760,000. And that in that report, it also shows that the city actually is online for 1,626,500 in grants and Pierce County lodging taxes, not the 1.1 that we get quoted. The city's SEPA environmental checklist filed the day after the open house, the city's determination of consistency with their own town center plan, the petition itself against the resolution 1665, and the demolition permit issued today with the fence put up around the Ryan House with the website updated saying that the implementation of the demo was being postponed until further notice. I'm hoping that this is a very good act by the city. And so far as we've been told that the building is falling down on itself, and that now we've taken action to actually reduce our liabilities, and nobody in the city can get hurt if they're there, or the people who sleep there in the nightly basis won't get hurt also. With the petition slowing things down or causing us to go back and actually do a process that may have been required, maybe now is a good time for all of us to work together and see that the whole town and area what we can do to save the Ryan House. That could include local contractors taking a look at what's going on and actually getting bids and second opinions of what is needed to be done, or even if it can be done. Right now, there isn't.
All right. Next speaker, Rose Giffen.
I'm already on. My name's Rose Giffen. I live at 15004 80th Avenue, Court East in Puyallup. However, I am a resident here and had been a resident here in Sumner for many years. And my parents were, my grandparents were, everything else. I am not able to speak real well, so I would like to yield my 3 minutes to Randy, please.
I didn't ask.
Okay.
Regarding the SEPA environmental application and determination, there are some things that appear to be inconsistent in that I wanted to highlight to you. That the 2018 town center plan says the Ryan House will be restored, a museum, a visitor center, plus many paragraphs regarding the Ryan's history. Nothing comes close to saying it would be demolished, therefore demolition is not consistent with the town center plan. Two other statements that the SEPA checklist used to get the demo permit that are inaccurate include the city states are there any environmental hazards including exposure to toxic chemicals, risk of fire, explosion, spill, hazard waste, or that could occur because of this proposal? The city answered there is no known environmental hazards. Yet in your own summary of costs in redoing the house, you state that hazardous component abatements cost quoted are either 189,000 or 50,000 by Drew. Now, I can understand there's a difference in there, and possibly because of the abatement of the asbestos that was done, and that may have been included in the city's estimate of 189, but the 50,000 for sure is going toward lead-based paint. Well, you can't then represent that you have lead-based paint and then in an environmental study say there's no hazardous hazard there. There's nothing hazardous. You gotta be on one side of the fence or the other. You can't be on both of them. Another question asked, is there any material evidence, artifacts, or areas of cultural importance on or near the site? The city responds, there are no known landmarks, features, or other evidence of Indian or historic use of or occupation. That's not saying just Indian historic, that's saying or historic. And the Ryan House, by definition, is historic. It is placed in the historic register, for heaven's sakes. Another question asked, the method used to assess the potential impacts to cultural and historic resources on or near the project site. The answer was the original pioneer cabin of the home dates back to as early as 1860. The Ryan House is also on the National Register of Historic Places of Local Significance. The city of Sumner staff met with and consulted with DAHP staff on July 27th, 23rd. None of that has ever been disclosed. And even in this, it doesn't disclose what happened in that meeting. Did the DHP, did they ever solicit or bring forth any recommendations or put on paper what they said in this meeting. No, that doesn't exist. I can go on and on with multiple acts. What I'd like to do is to just, hopefully you guys listen somewhat to what I said, and that we can see that although maybe our process had been flawed previously and disclosures that you thought you had given us had not been done, that maybe we can restart correctly and see if we can all come together and save the Ryan House.
Thank you. Next speaker, Nick Bierman.
Is it on? Yeah. Yeah, so my name is Nick Bierman. I live at 5802 Parker Road East, which is just to the east of the Fred Meyer. So I do live here in Sumner. And I also rise in support of saving the Ryan House. I have a few comments on the process so far, and I'd like to see how different organizations in the community can work with city council, can work with historical restoration boards to try to do whatever we can to find funding to save the Ryan House. I know that one of the points of contention about why the house was voted to be demolished was the lack of funds. I really think that if we pause and slow down and reflect, there are ways of finding funding. One other thing that I think maybe was misrepresented was that the grants for restoration would run out at a certain timeline. Although I've learned that through some reporting that some grants can be extended under extenuating circumstances, that it's not necessarily a hard timeline. So I think it would be good to remain flexible and at least explore other options and also explore new grants. Maybe there's other grants out there that the city has not been made aware of that could be explored. So I would like the city to just slow down a little bit and think about what's going on, because once the house is gone, it's gone forever. Let's make sure that we're doing the best thing for the city and the residents. The city of Sumner is the steward, or the city of Sumner is the steward right now for the Ryan House. So I think we should do the best we can to treasure the resource that we have while we still have it, and not be so hasty to get rid of it. I also would like to kind of go back to some other things that have been talked about with the structures on the site. My understanding is that not every structure on the site is unsound, that only a couple of places are unsound. And I think that's also another really good point to make sure that the citizens are aware that there are things that can be done to shore up the places where the structures are sagging or lacking in soundness. But to say that the entire structure is going to collapse at any moment, I think is a misrepresentation. And I think that's important to hit on. And then one final note. I think the city may need to do a better job of outreach. I've talked to citizens who say they didn't know this was happening, and even the notices online for meetings and on the website. A lot of people don't look at the website. A lot of people don't use computers. A lot of people in town, residents, long-term residents, do not regularly use the website and the minutes that are posted online, the upcoming agendas that are posted online. There's no notice that goes up by mail to residents. And a lot of people don't know because they can't look online or don't look online. So that's my time.
Thank you. Lindsay Norland.
Good evening. I live on Alder Avenue in Sumner. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you guys for allowing us to speak tonight regarding the impending demolition of the Ryan House. I stand before you as a concerned citizen, but also as a voice for the community that feels unheard, unconsulted, and are very concerned by the lack of transparency, due diligence, and vision that has accompanied this decision. First and foremost, the lack of transparency surrounding the fate of the Ryan House is very troubling. Not only are historical landmarks, should they be cherished, not every town has a historical landmark. So the fact that we have one is pretty special. And the fact that we are so quick to tear it down seems just very concerning. One thing that was very troubling to me is in hearing the city's communication director, Carmen Palmer, state to reporter Felix Bannell that she had put it in multiple newsletters. She said, "We've put it out there. It's been on the website since 2019. Where was the effort to save it then?" My concern there is it has been on the website since 2019, but everything up until September revolved around the improvements and the exciting updates that would be made to the Ryan House. It wasn't until a month or two ago that it was stated publicly, as stated before, this hasn't been made very public. It was then that the concern was brought forward by the community as it hadn't been properly communicated to us. There was no need for the community to step in up until September, as it was moving in a direction that the citizens were excited about. That's where the confusion lies, and that's where the lack of transparency is pretty astonishing. As the communications director and the people that represent us, there is a responsibility to ensure that critical changes in plans are adequately and clearly communicated to the public. And it appears that this aspect of her role and the council's role has been lacking. We live very busy lives here in Sumner, and we hope that the people that represent us would be open and honest in their communication and bring forth our voices and our opinions to decisions as drastic as these. And then lastly, it's just worth emphasizing that our city has a lot of beautiful parks, Loyalty, Rainier View, tons of updates made. The last thing we need is another large grassy park just 3 blocks down from Heritage Park that has just recently been improved. As a former high school teacher and a mother to a 9-year-old, I believe that the local schools and students should have the privilege of visiting and touring the Ryan House to learn about the heritage of our community. It's not only a historical asset, but a valuable educational resource that can help our young ones today connect to the past and the community that they live in.
Thank you. Amy Ring.
Very good.
I live on Pacific Avenue in Sumner, and I don't need 3 minutes. My family has been in Sumner for generations. My children are the 7th generation of my family to live in Sumner. My great, however many greats back was Doc Spinning, who was the physician in town and came over on the wagon train with Ezra Meeker. I come to speak in support of the Ryan House. There's been so many things going around. And I guess as a citizen, one of the things I have heard is that restoring the Ryan House would be a financial hardship to the citizens of Sumner. And as a citizen, I want to speak in support of my tax dollars going towards that. I pay for all kinds of things I don't use. My kids are grown, can't tell you the last time I went to Loyalty Park. But Loyalty Park's still important to me. I still am glad to have my tax dollars go to that. I want it to be there for future generations. I feel the same way about our other parks and the Ryan House. It is really important as a community that we preserve our history, that we honor our history, and that we make an investment in making sure that our history will be there for future generations. So I would ask that the council do what they can to try to find a way to work with the community to preserve our history. It would be a horrible, horrible loss for all of us.
Thank you. Spencer Gray.
Hi, my name's Spencer Gray. We own a property on Academy. I feel like there hasn't been good transparency in regards to this, as other people have said. These people, the Ryans, worked really hard to get where they were, as everybody does. But it seems like there's a shift in societal and cultural values where people are just quick to disregard things that are hard and not do the work to figure out how to save them, such as the Ryan House. There's no way, regardless what's going on there, that it's a $2 million project. You're a city, so these contractors are going to charge you prevailing wages, maybe use union workers, and I'm not trying to get into debate, but it's definitely not what it would cost if I was to go there and get that house, shore up the foundation and put it back and make it look how it does today. The citizens deserve to keep that, and the history doesn't need to go away. From my understanding, the city has been responsible to keep up this house for almost 100 years and has failed miserably. The most concerning statement that I read online is it says the city operates on a very lean budget, meaning there has never been excess funding. There's wasted money all over the place. This is a government. It wouldn't have taken too much to keep that house up over the last 100 years. But now we're at a point that doing nothing has resulted in a big bill, just like the city of Puyallup done nothing to the police department and wants $50 million, and they spent $1.6 million to build a bathroom. It's pretty wasteful. It's possible that you could get some local businesses and contractors who have bonds and insurance to piecemeal this program together and maybe not be out of pocket very much at all. The council standing before me seems to have been around for quite a while, and it's kind of concerning that it would appear to me that you're not voting on behalf of your constituents. I haven't heard a single person here that wants this house torn down. So you need to take a pause and figure this out. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jeff, are there any online? If anybody online would like to speak, can you raise your hand or press *9? None. Anybody else want to go before we? All right.
Give me a chance.
Could you state your name and address when you get up there?
I was kind of nervous to speak, but I can get this original, I'm sorry, Suzanne Canton. Cashin was my maiden name. I must be nervous. Anyway, I'm up in unincorporated Bonnie Lake area, unincorporated Sumner, which is Bonnie Lake, which is considered Sumner, Washington. But I came across someone had posted so many things posted. I thought it was fascinating, the original deed. And if I may, I just want to read a couple things. This was the deed that was posted in the newspaper, 1926. And it starts off technically here. The said premises being hereby granted, conveyed and dedicated to the town of Sumner for the use of the public forever, and as for a public park and site for a public library to be maintained on said premises by the town of Sumner. But no building other than for library purposes shall ever be erected on the site. It is stipulated as follows. The old house on said premises shall be used as a public library as long as it is suitable, or at least for a period of 5 years. They go on to don't do anything for 5 years. That's in the deed here, including all the stipulations on plants. Beautiful particular references here to the plants. When the present building is ready to be torn down, the heirs reserve the right to enter and reserve any part of the old house that is desired. The heirs also reserve the right to go upon the premises at any time for the purpose of assisting in the care of the grounds as they desire, for the purpose of making minor repairs. The heirs desire that a space, as they may select, on the grounds to be reserved for the tablet, a memorial tablet to Lucy Ryan. Should at any time a building be erected on these premises, other than specified above, the property will revert to the heirs. I thought that was fascinating. No hedge of any kind, they go on to the landscaping again. And then I thought this was fascinating. And when a new building is erected, it shall be of the old English residential style, following it, if practical, or as nearly as possible, the contour of the old house, witnesses, etc. I just feel this is a beautiful, beautiful landmark. Not that we have very many at all. It strikes me that George Ryan was our very first mayor, and his wife Lucy, first postmistress. Library there for years. So in respect for them and in honor of this deed, I would just ask that you seriously consider holding on to this jewel, this gem, as others have said, to save it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
All right. Anybody else?
On your phone now.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Move on to new business. Ordinance number 2872. 2023-2024 budget amendment. Councilmember Cole, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve ordinance number 2872, amending the 23-24 biennial budget.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. I call on Chief Financial Officer Cassandra Raymond.
Good evening, everyone. So before you is our third quarter budget amendment. This is ordinance 2872. There we go. Our 23-24 biennial budget was adopted in December of 2022. And since that adoption, we bring to council quarterly budget amendments for your review. These provide council a timely and transparent view of our budget needs and give staff really the opportunity to review changes, revisit and revise forecasts, and then adjust for programmatic changes. This is a part of our overall financial management process. And as part of that, we bring the budget amendment to our Finance and Personnel Committee for an in-depth kind of line-by-line review. This particular amendment recognizes an additional $11,325,085 in revenues, additional $12,447,885 in expenses. This budget amendment doesn't have transfers in and transfers out, so we are just looking at the revenues and expenditures. As you can see, the bulk of this is in the capital and the utility funds. Looking first at our general fund, we are recognizing a wellness grant that we received for our police department. This was for wellness activities for our first responders. This was a grant by the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission. So we're recognizing both the revenue and the expense. We are also recognizing additional revenues and corresponding expenses for our Nights on Orion. This was our Cultural Arts Commission. Our community court, we were lucky enough to apply for and receive funding from the Washington State Legislature to implement, actually continue our community court. So this was from July through June of 2024. So that's the revenue as well as the expenses that are associated with that program. We'll be providing Sound Transit some temporary leased space as they work through their construction project in the general fund. And then the next two items you'll actually see, because we work on a fund structure, each of our funds is a its own self-balancing set of accounts. And we have some expenses that are split between funds. So here in the general fund, you'll see the general fund portion of a limited duration engineering assistant. This was an intern in engineering that we're actually lucky enough to be able to retain through December of 2024. So this is the general funds portion. And then also an ice machine. This was directly related to additional regulations through our Washington State LNI for extreme heat situations, providing that ice machine for our outdoor staff. And then $5,000 in advertising and additional $2,000 in training. I'll give it a little plug for finance. That's actually in the finance department. When we adopted the budget, we did not have a certified payroll professional as our payroll person. We do now. And so this is additional training for her continuing education.
Looking at our capital funds, back in May, City Council authorized staff to issue long-term debt of $3,040,000. This was for construction of a building at our cemetery to provide for cemetery and park needs, and then also recognizing the corresponding expense. In our utility funds, we're going to see the same portions of the ice machine in the limited duration staffing for our engineering assistant and in our water, sewer, and stormwater funds. Additionally, in our sewer fund, we'll be recognizing a little over $2,000 in revenue and expense for a Puget Sound Energy incentive grant. And then in our stormwater fund, and this really is where the bulk of this budget amendment, where the bulk of the dollar amount comes from, we're recognizing a $9 million capital acquisition for land. This is land that is related to our White River restoration. City Council authorized this purchase in September. And then offsetting that is a grant from Pierce County Flood Control Zone. And as with many of our grants, these are grants that are designed for a specific purpose. Our stormwater is a restricted fund, and these are restricted grant monies that are designed solely for the land acquisition associated with that White River restoration project. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the public?
How much did the ice machine cost?
It was $10,000 and it was split 25% between our general fund, our water, sewer, and our storm.
And what does the ice machine do that would be unusually different than just a normal $1,000 ice machine?
That was actually something that was procured by our emergency management and consistent with the regulations. I would be happy to get your information and put you in touch with our emergency manager.
So what was different about it than a normal household ice machine?
Again, that's something that
Is it really big? Really powerful?
I haven't seen it in person, but I would be happy to put you in contact with the person who has all the details.
This is the time for public comment, not public questions. So if you do have comment, you do need to go up to the
You will receive a call.
to the lectern and
Please.
announce your name and address, and we're happy to listen to your comments.
Thank you. A comment only.
Spencer Gray Academy. I see that the council is taking on councilmatic debt for things, but don't have any extra money for the Ryan House. So I guess that's a comment and a question. Why are you not willing to take on councilmatic debt to save something that's a piece of history?
Thanks for your comment. Anybody else?
Yes, yes. I don't know if I was looking at it.
Need to come up to the podium.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Okay. Oops. Am I good?
No, one more.
Well, it's red and you said it was green. Never mind. I just noticed on the one page on the presentation, and I wrote it down, was, and a finance lady, and I can't remember your name, was that what was it? The expenses were 30415 and receipts were 282,933. So it was a shortfall of $21,222. Is that correct? That's my question.
We're making comments at this time. not
Okay, that's my
questions.
comment. My comment is, I noticed it appeared there was a shortfall. So I'm wondering, because normally when you do a budget, you don't do a shortfall. You try to,
Thank you.
yeah, that's all.
A comment?
No questions.
You're not allowed.
So my comment was, I noticed that there was a revenue from Sound Transit for renting space. So I guess as a comment / question, can there be other sources of revenue that the city of Sumner has, such as renting spaces for other needs like that? So are there other sources of revenue that the city can look at and offset the deficit that we were presented with?
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Cassandra. Okay, any comment from the council? Mr. Brown.
So in any case, when the expenditures are higher than the revenues, the difference is going to come from fund balance. So that's in effect the savings. We have some situations such as the capital acquisition in the stormwater fund, which I believe is the bulk of that, where we are saving funds year over year as part of our rate model. So we're saving funds in anticipation of using them against a capital project. And so in that case, the difference between the capital expenditure and what we received from the grants to reimburse it are funding that we are using as local match that we've saved through our rates for that project.
Anybody else? No? Okay, go ahead.
My light's green. Is it on? And now it's red. Okay. I'm not sure. I know this is not a question you can answer, so I think it's for Mr. Wilson. So my question is, as I remember, there was something put down by the state where we had to be responsible for having things available to cool people. Is that what this ice machine is for?
That's correct, Deputy Mayor. So last year, the state adopted new L&I regulations for excessive heat, which requires us to provide certain things for our field employees, especially when it gets over a certain temperature. The ice maker procured is one that is a commercial grade that is hard plumbed, and it'll actually be moving to our new operations facility in the future. We made sure that the specs are correct. So it's also saving us on a future expenditure.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. Anybody else? The clerk, please call the roll.
Brown,
Yeah.
Reed,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Potato.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimous. Okay, moving on to appointment for the Sumner Planning Commission. Councilmember Brown, would you like to make a motion?
I move to appoint Adrian Amir to the planning commission.
Adrienne, is she here tonight? Oh, she is online.
But do you need a second?
I do need a second.
I'd like to do that.
Thank you. We have a second. And I want to call on Ann Siegenthaler, Senior Planner.
I'm learning that this should be read. Good evening, Mayor Hayden, council members. I'd like to just give a brief background on the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission serves as in an advisory role to the City Council. Commission's main purpose is to assist in the implementation of the vision and policies in the Sumner Comprehensive Plan, including making recommendations on various city plans, goals, and policies, the Sumner zoning code, and development regulations as well. The commission consists of 7 members, and we currently have 5, so we have 2 vacancies. And the commissioners are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. So that's why we're here tonight. We have, this is our first appointment coming before you. And next, in a couple of months, we'll have a second appointment coming to you for confirmation as well, in order to fill our 2 vacancies on the commission. And our first appointment that we'd like you to consider is Ms. Adrienne Lemire. And she lives in Sumner with her family, and she enjoys Sumner's small town character and walkable neighborhoods. She also has a background in sustainable urban development from the University of Washington. And she has actually experience working in planning. So she has that kind of planning background, which is very desirable for planning commission. Mayor Hayden is seeking confirmation of Ms. Lemire to fill the seat that was vacated by Mr. Barry Walden. And so he has the remainder of his term runs through April 2024. So we're asking the council to appoint Ms. Lemire for planning commission term beginning in November of 2023 and expiring in April 2026. Our commissioners serve for 4-year terms.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none. Are there any? I will when we put her in. Okay, when we vote. Is there any comment from the council for this? No? All right, will the clerk please call the roll?
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimous. Adrienne, would you like to make a comment?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I apologize. I had intended upon arriving tonight, but unfortunately some things came about that prevented me from doing so. But thank you all for, allowing me the opportunity. I definitely look forward to meeting each and every one of you and am happy to be able to serve the community.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. More eyes is always better. So thank you for taking the time to apply.
Thank you.
Okay. Off onto reports. Councilmember Cole.
Yes, I do have an update on the last Rainier Communications Commission meeting. It was held on September 20th. And there were discussions, old business, there was the ILA, the interlocal agreement discussion. And we discussed the rewrite update, which at this point, there is a continuation of the rewrite. So it's still underway, and the city attorneys are actually reviewing that. They're are anticipating a draft to the cities by the end of the year with an adoption process in early 2024. There was also a discussion about a board discussion about non-voting status and non-contributing, at least financially, those members. And Tacoma was one of them. They are currently non-voting. And there was question as to whether or not they wanted to continue. And they're also looking at the provision to allow the board to accept additional non-voting members. We went on to some new business. That one is that the HD channel is coming soon. And the commission will be asking our communications director to promote it. In addition, there was a PCT update where they just let us know that the NATOA, and I don't know what the acronym stands for, but they PCTV received some programming awards. They received 31 nominations, and they are up for Station of the Year. Yes, and then there was just a retirement celebration. So the next meeting is November 15th, and that is it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
My turn, huh? Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming out and giving us your thoughts. From all the things I've heard, I can see there's still some kind of misinformation and some missing information. So I will be encouraging staff to put out some more information and clear up and answer some of the questions that you've posed. It's just, things are just difficult when you are part of government. It's just not as easy as just doing things when you're a private citizen. So there's lots of rules and regulations that regular citizens don't know about, but the city can certainly make you aware of those and let you know. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Potato.
On Friday, I was able to ride in the parade, the homecoming parade, and it's great to see how much support the high school has from the community. And I was really surprised at some of the different clubs that were represented. Like, well, we were at the back of the parade, so we saw the robotics club and then the Hispanic students. They must have maybe 10 or 15 countries that's represented in that group. And they were entertaining us with their great dancing. So, but then, of course, there's all the sports teams, and it's just great to see how much the students are involved. So, thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. And everybody attend
Right, City Administrator. Oh, Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone that came out tonight, and thank you to Adrian for volunteering to serve on the Planning Commission, and to apologize for my dark screen tonight. I've had to cut some power flickers and signal issues, so I haven't been able to be visual, but thank you again.
Thank you, Patrick. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, coming up at next week's study session, you have 4 items on the agenda. First one is a update from Sound Transit regarding the parking garage construction. Then an update from our police department regarding crime trends and legislative changes that they're seeing. Then the 2024 legislative agenda will be discussed. We'll have our lobbyist Bill Clark with us. And then we'll end the night with the 2024 ad valorem property tax discussion. There are 5 Mondays in October, which means there's no meeting on October 30th. And the next regular council meeting is Monday, November 6th. A couple community events coming up I just want to make sure are on your radar. First is the Sunset Festival of Bands, which is held at Sunset Stadium on Saturday, October 28th, starting at 9 a.m. More information can be found on their website, sunsetfestivalofbands.org. And this is a privately organized event, but it is sponsored by the city. Also, Street of Treats returns on October 31st from 5 to 7 downtown on Main Street. Street of Treats is hosted by the Sumner Main Street Association, and it's sponsored as well by the city. That's my report for tonight.
Thank you. It was such a great homecoming parade, and I want to thank everybody who came for the kids. We had great weather, so many entries of all ages, and an awesome attendance from our community to celebrate with them. That's what Sumner's about. Meeting adjourned. 6:50. 7:50.